Years after the war had ended, the questions still lingered. When Werner Lerche was interrogated by Allied intelligence officers, they were less interested in what he had flown and more interested in what he had understood. Among the many aircraft he had tested, one question stood out to them. Why had he concluded that American fighters were superior, not in performance, but in design philosophy? It was not an obvious answer. American aircraft were not always faster. They were not always more maneuverable. In a traditional sense, they did not dominate the skies through elegance or precision. And yet, as Lerche explained, that was never the point. War, as it had evolved by the 1940s, was no longer a contest of individual encounters. It was a test of systems. The United States had approached World War II as an industrial conflict. Every decision from engineering to production to pilot training was aligned toward one objective: sustained operations over time. Aircraft like the P-47 Thunderbolt embodied that philosophy completely. They could be produced in staggering numbers. More importantly, they could remain operational. A fighter sitting on the ground, no matter how advanced, had no value. A fighter in the air, even if imperfect, was part of a system that could project power continuously. American units understood this, and their aircraft reflected it. They were built to be maintained under pressure, repaired quickly, and flown repeatedly by pilots of varying experience. Germany, by contrast, had built for excellence. The Bf-109 and FW-190 were remarkable machines when conditions were ideal, but war rarely offered ideal conditions, especially by 1944. Fuel shortages, limited training, replacement parts became inconsistent. Maintenance grew more difficult as factories were bombed and skilled labor diminished. The result was not immediate collapse. It was gradual erosion. Aircraft that should have been available were grounded. Pilots who should have been confident were underprepared. Systems that had once functioned with precision began to falter under strain. Meanwhile, the P-47 Thunderbolt kept flying. Production numbers told part of the story. Over 15,000 units built. At peak capacity, one aircraft leaving the assembly line every hour. But numbers alone did not explain the outcome. Availability did. An American squadron equipped with the P-47 Thunderbolt could field the majority of its aircraft on any given day. A German unit, even with comparable numbers on paper, often could not. Maintenance delays, fuel shortages, and mechanical issues reduced real combat strength long before enemy action did. This difference multiplied over time. More aircraft in service, more pilots trained, more missions flown, more pressure applied, not through superiority in a single engagement, but through persistence across thousands of them. Lerche had seen it clearly in November 1943. What he had flown was not just an aircraft. It was a reflection of a system designed to endure, a system that accepted imperfection, adapted to it, and continued forward without pause. And that, more than any individual design feature, was the true advantage. It was not dramatic. It was decisive. Today, the legacy of the P-47 Thunderbolt is often measured in its combat record, its victories, its resilience, its role in escorting bombers deep into enemy territory. But perhaps its greatest significance lies elsewhere, in what it revealed: that in modern warfare, reliability can outweigh brilliance, that systems can matter more than individuals, and that the side capable of sustaining effort day after day, mission after mission, will ultimately shape the outcome. So the question remains, when we look back at conflicts like this, what truly determines victory? Is it the best machine or the system that keeps fighting the longest? If this story made you reconsider how wars are won, share your perspective below. History is not just a record of what happened, it is a conversation about why it happened. And sometimes the most important lessons are the ones that were ignored when they mattered most. The battle may be over, but the meaning behind it is still being written.